I mean, I could read the full chapter if you want, but I mean, I sent it to you. Judges 19. So this is a story that is considered brutal and terrible in the Bible. And it's a little gross when I read it myself. So just a short summary of it. A man and his concubine are staying in the town of Gibeah overnight. A crowd wanting to have sex with the man, and he sends his concubine instead, and they rape his concubine to death. He chops up her body and sends the pieces to the Israelites so they can see what's done. So it's just a short summary actually found online of the chapter. So do you want me to read the whole thing, or do you want to kind of go from there?
No, and so it's Judges 19 for anybody who wants to go check it out. This passage is brutal. And my thought is that it's supposed to feel that way. It's intentionally brutal, but we can have a problem when we're looking at the passage, and like with the Genesis one, we're looking for a good guy. Now I taught through the book of Judges. It's not online. It's not available. It's not recorded or anything, but I taught through the book of Judges years ago with the college group at my church. And I noticed, as you know, when you teach a book, it's like you take each passage one at a time. You grow in your understanding of the flow of the book a lot more. I noticed that in Judges, things just keep getting worse. People keep getting worse. And even the judges themselves keep getting worse. Like we have Gideon, he seems to start well, and he seems to end not well. We have Jephthah, he starts well, he ends not well at all. We have Samson, he doesn't even really start well, right? By the time we get to Samson, it's like, come on, man. And you're like at a point where you're looking for a good guy, and there isn't one. There isn't even someone to root for in the story at that point. And that is kind of the theme of the book of Judges as you go through the theme. And when you know the theme, you understand how this passage fits into what God's communicating to us in this book. So Judges 21:25, the end of the whole book, the last verse, and it's not long after these events in chapter 19. It says, in those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. And that's the theme through the book of Judges. We have that phrase where they did what was right in their own eyes. There's no king, and how it was a bad thing. It led them into sin, and then God judged them or punished them rather with their enemies coming in, and then he brings a deliverer who helps them. But it's a cycle like this. Like we disobey God, we're judged. We call upon him, he brings a deliverer. But the cycle gets lower every time it goes around. And so it's like 7 cycles in the book of Judges. By the time you hit Judges 19, you're at the lowest of the low. Just the lowest of the low. So that's why Judges 19 verse 1, it starts out with this idea. And it came about in those days, there was no king in Israel. And then it tells a story. The guy, he takes a concubine. Shouldn't have done that. She cheats on him. She prostitutes herself. She shouldn't have done that. He gets her back, and then he's being manipulated by her dad, and he escapes the manipulation of her father, and he flees. And this is really interesting. Judges 19 verse 11 and 12. When they're fleeing her dad, he's trying to look for a place to stay. And it says they were near Jebus, which is the Jebusites, which is actually Jerusalem, I think. But it was not controlled by the Israelites at the time. So Judges 19:11, when they were near Jebus, the day was almost gone, and the servant said to his master, please come and let us turn aside into the city of the Jebusites and spend the night in it. And he's like, no way. It says, however, his master said to him, we will not turn aside into the city of foreigners who are not of the sons of Israel, but we will go on as far as Gibeah. So the reason why this guy with his concubine goes to Gibeah is because he wants to be with the Israelites, not with the foreigners. The ironic thing is he probably would have been safer with the non-Israelites. That's how bad the Israelites were at this point. And that's what this passage is drawing out. Just the failure and wickedness of Israel at the time. So he goes to Gibeah. There's no safety there. There's no brotherhood there to them. He's just a stranger, and they're going to have sport with him and with his concubine. And when she gets killed, he responds after she gets killed, the story you already shared. He responds by taking her. She's already dead at this point, but he takes her body and cuts her up in pieces and sends the pieces out to different locations within the land of Israel. The idea here is, there's no postal service, right? He's sending them out to say, and no news service for that matter, to say, look at how low it has gone in Gibeah. They did this to a fellow Israelite. I went there for safety, and they did this to me, and they did this to her. Now, I'm not saying what this guy did was good, and neither is Judges. It's just recording a brutal event, right? Israel responds by rising up in anger, and they attack this city of Gibeah, and it almost destroys the Benjamites. And the end of the whole rest of the book of Judges is dealing with a war that gets started because of what happened with this man and his concubine. The point of it
Okay.
is this.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, sorry. The point of it is this, to give you all, I give you all the background. Everybody in this story is messed up. Every single person is messed up. That's the point. And it just causes mob actions with all kinds of evil consequences. The point is Israel, a nation chosen by God, given good laws, given the land, and yet they fail to obey God. And this is where we're marching towards Romans 3. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So the shocking parts of Judges 19 are meant to tell us about the shocking reality of the sin of man and the need we have for Jesus. And Judges is a long march to the depravity of man. Yeah.